Kris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. This is where right and left come to be reasonable. But you know what? Forget it. I'm not saying it anymore. Forget right and left. I don't want to hear from either side. I don't want to hear that this is about one side or the other. You are both killing us. Do you understand? Literally and figuratively. The truth is, there are so many acts of political violence we can't keep track. Minnesota, Colorado, 2 attempts on the President of the United States. Now this, Charlie Kirk's murder. And who can believe that there won't be more? Now, I would say God forbid. But you know what? If you believe in God, you also believe that He gave us free will and we are using it to destroy His blessings. So let's just focus not on right and left, right and wrong. Can we just start here? In America, killing someone for what they say is wrong. Period. We all know the problem. Here is a solution. Now, I am dead set against any type of limitations on speech in America as a function of government intervention. That's what the First Amendment is about. But businesses make choices. Elon, you can tell me to piss off, but I never would want anything bad to happen to you or your family or anything because of what you say. And I think you can help here. I think you and the other tech bros should change your algorithms to stop juicing and making money off the most provocative, destructive, and extreme shite. Because that's what social media has become. It could be whatever we want to make it, and it's a dumpster fire. Trust that you are catering to the few and not the many with the poison on your platforms. How bad is it? We are flooded with ideas about whether what Charlie Kirk said somehow qualifies his murder. And we have collectively ignored that 2 guys just bombed. No, they tried. They tried to bomb a news van in the same state where he was murdered. Why aren't the people who are worried about what Charlie said up in arms about what these guys just did? How is it not trending? It just happened Friday. And so many people were saying, oh, wait, what? Yeah, how do we not know? This guy from Pakistan and someone with the same surname, maybe a relative, I don't know, they live in Utah. They tried to blow up a news van. They put a bomb underneath it and lit it. They were just arrested today. Bombing is a crime. If people caught those guys in the act and beat their ass, I could see trying to justify the violence. But dropping rhetorical bombs is not the same. What happened to, I may disapprove of what you say, but will defend to the death your right to say it? The quote is often attributed to Voltaire, right? The French philosopher during the Enlightenment. Boy, could we use another Enlightenment. It was actually not Voltaire. Did you know that? It was his biographer, a woman named Evelyn Beatrice Hall, summarizing his writings. She wrote that line. I can't tell you how many veterans over the years have talked to me about politics and their feelings and how that ideal that I just outlined shaped their sacrifice. Do we still believe it? I don't know. Are we really in a place where a murder based on what someone said gets a yeah, but? I condemn it. It's unacceptable. There is no place for it in America. But he said a lot of terrible and divisive things. Did you hear what he said about Joe Biden? Would you say that at a wake? Would you look at the guy in the box and say, yeah, it's kind of a bum though, no? Would you say that? Would you be okay with me saying it when a gangbanger gets shot? Well, you know, gang life is stupid. You know, this is what happens. No. Why? Because death is a shadow that eclipses the light of any criticism of the deceased. It can't be out-argued or changed with an election. So it shouldn't be surprising that after being shot and killed in front of his wife and kids, that Charlie Kirk, at only 31 years of age, is being lionized by people on the right, including the President of the United States. Yeah, but that's unusual. It's unusual to get shot in the neck for trying to engage kids on campus, too. Everyone knows Charlie's organizing efforts were fundamental to Trump's victory. Of course, he will celebrate him, especially Because Charlie Kirk was murdered for doing what America is supposed to protect. I know as well as any of you what Charlie Kirk said that could be seen as extreme or toxic or worse. We disagreed on a lot. However, my feelings about what he said have no place in my assessment of his murder. It was wrong, and I wish it hadn't happened. We need more talk about how to get to a better place. Democrats should not be quiet right now. It should not be hard for me to get you to come on. Republicans should not just be talking about avenging. We need to restore the idea that we battle over ideas here. We don't get killed for them. The key here is that this is about what Charlie was saying, not what he was doing. That is the line where you get to qualify violence as a response, where a crime can be committed, where force may be justified. Last point. Notice, I'm not talking about the 22-year-old who murdered Charlie Kirk. I don't know why he did it. Neither do you. We're covering that aspect tonight with much better minds. But does it matter? Yes, if the knowledge reveals a continuing threat or an organization out there that needs to be checked. But that's not why people want to know why he did it. People want to know so that one side can blame the other. And it's already being done anyway. We see the president and the vice president doing that despite the need for healing and unity. I have never seen less messaging to try to assuage a crisis than I'm seeing right now. The silence is unacceptable. The spin is unacceptable. The blaming and the justifying is what got us here. It is what got Charlie Kirk murdered. It will never get us anywhere better. So if you want to talk about what the continuing threat might be and what really matters here, let's do it. We are very fortunate to have, in my opinion, the best source, Utah's top cop, Commissioner of Utah's Department of Public Safety, Beau Mason. Beau, thank you very much for doing the job that you're doing.
No, thank you for having me on. It's a privilege to serve the citizens of the state of Utah and the citizens of this nation.
Your hands are full. I know the feds are doing a lot of things here, but I want to get your head on give the audience some perspective here. One, I'm shocked that the guys who put the bomb underneath the van, like nobody is talking about it. And what is your understanding, without obviously giving away anything for ongoing investigation, but they were arrested. What do people need to know about this?
So that's an investigation that is not being handled by DPS. So that investigation is being handled by Salt Lake City PD in working with the FBI. So I really can't speak to that one.
Is it serious?
Absolutely. It's a threat. It's a real threat. It's again, a threat on life. It's a threat on society. And so we have seen threats increase. Political threats have increased over the last year. And since Charlie's murder, threats have increased drastically throughout our state, and including people that we have interviewed as either, persons of interest that were unrelated but may have resembled the shooter. And so as we've gone through these, we've seen threats increase all over the place. It's really disturbing.
Is there reason to believe that that event was connected to Charlie Kirk's murder? And do you think, is there any reason to believe, as far as you know, that those two guys are part of anything that is domestic, or are they part of some radicalized group abroad?
That I don't know. Like I say, I'm not privileged to have the information for that investigation at this point. They have not, our partners have not reached out to me and said, hey, there's a tie to Charlie's death. It doesn't mean there is or is not, but they have not let us know that there is at this point.
Charlie Kirk's murderer, do you believe it was just this individual, or is there proof that there may have been a group behind it?
We have forensic evidence that ties this individual to Charlie Kirk's murder. It's an ongoing investigation. Because the arrest is made doesn't mean the investigation's over. So we are looking at everything. It's been out there that he was on gaming platforms or other social media. We continue to investigate those. At this point, I can tell you we are very confident in saying he was the lone gunman and the lone actor on campus. Now, if people influenced him leading up to or his mindset or whatever, we're still digging into that. And we're going to investigate every lead. We're going to interview everybody we can find that talked to him. And we're not discounting that, but we have no evidence to lead towards that presumption right now.
So the idea that there are specific groups being targeted, that's not coming from you. You don't know of any specific groups that you believe are operating in and around Utah that may have had something to do with radicalizing this guy.
To the contrary, I can say that we are absolutely not investigating any specific groups right now. We are looking at it holistically, every potential, but we do not have any specific groups that we have found any evidence that were involved in this assassination.
What is your best sense of motivation?
I don't want to speak to the killer's mindset. That's in his mind. It's hard to decipher. But political. I mean, you look at the writings, we can articulate that there was some kind of political motivation here. But exactly where his mind was in that, without asking him directly, I don't want to speculate as far as our investigation goes.
Was he living with somebody, and have they been helpful in helping you understand what he was doing?
Yes, he was. He had a roommate that was also a romantic relationship. We have interviewed him. We've been in contact continuously, and he has been cooperative with this investigation.
And did he tell you that he thought that this suspect was going through something, or was talking about acting, or, it was descending into some kind of madness or desire to be extreme?
Unfortunately, I can't talk about the the interviews and the factual information around those, because right now I have a duty to protect the integrity of this case. The most important thing to DPS right now is the conviction of this killer. And so I'm in a little bit different place than other leaders, are in what I can and cannot say, just because it could taint a jury or it could influence that in some way. So I can't speak to those factual information or any of those interviews.
Is the appearance tomorrow just a conference or an arraignment, or is there anything substantive that can come out tomorrow when the suspect's in court?
So I think after tomorrow, the filing documents are going to be formally filed by the Utah County Attorney. There will be a press conference, and then it will be followed by an initial appearance by Tyler Robinson. And so what I think is going to happen tomorrow is more information will become public. What is in those filing documents is going to be more than I'm able to say right now. So I think the public's going to get a better idea tomorrow of what really transpired.
Also, can you help clear up for us the chain of events that led to his arrest? Was it the family that came forward and reached out to law enforcement? What do you know about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. The family was involved. What conversations transpired, behind those family closed doors, we don't know. But we know the family, working in unison with a family friend who was a retired law enforcement officer, they trusted him. They came together. So Tyler Robinson, his family, and this retired officer came together, turned themselves into the Washington County Sheriff's Office. That sheriff called the Utah County Sheriff, who was sitting in our command post, who immediately grabbed me in command, and we began looking at this. Is it viable? We had other people, coming forward that were not good, but as soon as we had this information, it came through that chain. But speaking to that, the family was absolutely involved, and their involvement really helped us come to a peaceful resolution. Taking someone down through a SWAT team in the house, it endangers officers, endangers the suspect. The family played a vital role in bringing this to a peaceful resolution.
Last question, Beau. Any indication that his exit, did he think he was just going to get away with this, or is there any suggestion that he had other targets?
So what I can tell you right now is we do have good evidence that we will be able to bring out later that shows maybe his thought process with how this would play out. Right now, I just can't speak to that until after those charges are formally filed, and some of that is made public.
When it's made public, will it be clear in the documents if there was any affiliation or what his motive was?
I have not seen those charging documents myself, so I'm not sure what will be in them yet.
Beau Mason, I appreciate you very much. Thank you very much for joining us. You're welcome here tomorrow and for the duration to explain the process, because as you know, there's a lot of noise and we try to get signal here.
Yes, and thank you. You know, some of this has helped clarify some of the misinformation and bad information that's out there. So we just appreciate the opportunity.
I appreciate you. Thank you for doing it. And we're a call away. God bless and take care. All right, I want to bring in now to understand what this process looks like FBI Supervisory Special Agent James Gagliano and clinical and forensic psychologist Dr. Kris Mohandie. Guys, thank you for coming back, trying to help me again. We all agree that motive is only relevant. We know why people want to know. They want to know to do this, okay? For us, it's just about continuing threat and if there's any group involved, are they radicalizing anybody else? Jimmy, when we're looking at how this went down here, very rare for a family to give up one of their own like this. It seems like that's what happened here. What did you hear from Beau Mason that you want to speak to?
Absolutely, Kris. First of all, I mean, your point about the family and just the inner turmoil they must be facing. I'd heard the same through channels that the family is currently cooperative with law enforcement, and that's huge because, again, as you spoke to with Commissioner Mason, the concern is, was it a conspiracy? And a conspiracy doesn't necessarily mean that somebody was working with him in concert to make this happen, but maybe inspired him or maybe directed him or maybe provided him material support or encouragement, those kind of things. That's really, really important. And Kris, I think a lot of this goes back to where we are right now, this new paradigm of an assassination culture, where it's made up of three components. You take a grievance, and we always talk about these people, whether they're terrorists, mass shooters, or now political assassin, having grievances. You add a firm ideology, where my ideology is superior to yours is antithetical to my life, my liberty, and my pursuit of happiness. And last, Kris, it's that narcissistic moral absolutism, where you feel that you are just morally superior enough to take somebody's life that you disagree with.
Kris, let me ask you something much deeper. What is your read on what it says about us? I want to word this the right way. The reaction to the murder, the yeah, but, the calls to avenge. I was a little thrown by both. This is the first time I've seen a killing where nobody called for any kind of unity. What is your read on what's going on?
I think that we are living in a very divided political climate here in the United States right now. I think that the polarization, this event is a symptom of that polarization in terms of how people are reacting to it. Both those that would, be so outrageous as to somehow celebrate this. It's no celebration, what this young man did. To those that are, wanting, to have vengeance, because all that you're going to have there is more of the same. So that's part of the cultural backdrop that is problematic. All that's not to say that this young man is responsible for his actions, as it appears, unless we learn more about him. But his grievance, what the FBI agent was talking about here, James, is the issue that we see across time from the Secret Service's studies of assassins, that they looked all the way back to the 40s. And, the grievance is what we have seen time and time again. And it doesn't matter which side that grievance on. It is that fixed idea. It is that intolerance. It is that sense of narcissistic entitlement that we get to do these things to other people because we disagree. And that is not in keeping with what this country was founded on and what it is about. The issue of the internet, this guy was obviously well immersed in it. And you can get validation for anything there, unfortunately. And if this young man, as it appears to be from what we know about what he's communicated, both on the casings and so forth, if it's true, suggests a young man very much involved in that culture, which instead of having the brakes on something like this, it serves as an accelerant for these kinds of ideas with people like this.
Yeah, I want to look at those charging documents and see what they put in them. I didn't want to jam up the official and have him get in front of them, because then I would have gotten him in trouble. And for whatever incremental information we would have gotten, it's not worth what it would do to him. So, Jimmy, thank you very much. Kris, I appreciate you both. Thank you very much. James Gagliano, Kris Mohandie, to be continued. 4 minutes and 35 seconds. So, look, I was hoping, I'm still hoping, that leaders are going to step up. I'm having a hard time getting Democrats to come on the show. You know, they want to keep it quiet, not on social media. It's loud all over the place. The president is talking about this. The vice president is talking about this. I don't know that it's in a way that makes this better. I know it's emotional for them. I know they were connected to Charlie Kirk. I understand that, and I have condolences for them. The president and members of his team have made it very clear that they want to come after what they believe is the cause of the violence in our politics, left-wing terrorism. Is that fair, and does it get us to a better place? Let's talk. Both sides of the aisle, left, right, may be reasonable. If any of us thought Charlie Kirk's assassination would be a catalyst for getting to a better place, we were wrong. I mean, obviously, murder never makes anything better, but there's no call for anything like unity. The right, including the president and the vice president and members of the administration, are making it very clear that they believe that the left is to blame.
The data is clear. People on the left are much likelier to defend and celebrate political violence. This is not a both sides problem.
They're already under major investigation. A lot of the people that you would traditionally say are on the left.
They're
already under investigation.
The last message that Charlie sent me, we need to have an organized strategy to go after the left-wing organizations that are promoting violence in this country. It is a vast domestic terror movement. And with God as my witness, we are going to use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and throughout this government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people. It will happen, and we will do it in Charlie's name.
3 quick points. 1, playing this to advantage is a mistake. 2, blaming a group for the act of an individual is a mistake and does nothing to encourage any different thinking. And 3rd, the statistics tell us a different story. We see violence from both sides. You can look it up for yourself. So the question is, what are we seeing in response to this? And what does it mean? Let's bring in Ken Cuccinelli, served as acting Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security in the first Trump administration, and Mehdi Hasan, founder and CEO of the media company Zeteo. And yes, Mehdi and I have been arguing on Twitter. I like Mehdi. I respect Mehdi. I don't care what happens on Twitter. He is always welcome to make his case. And anyone who thinks that I have any hostility towards him is making a mistake. Mehdi, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Kris.
All right. So let me start with you, Mehdi. How would you analyze what you're hearing in response to this murder from the left?
From the left? I mean, just listening to the clips you played from the Trump administration, we're in a very dark moment. It's a very McCarthyite moment right now. I've been listening to your show. You made a lot of good points. The biggest point I think you've glossed over is the crackdown on free speech, this targeting of people for their views. I thought Charlie Kirk was supposed to be a free speech martyr. Why are the right using his death to crack down on free speech and American rights and go after this amorphous left? J.D. Vance lied today on the Charlie Kirk show when he said the statistics are clear that this is a left-wing problem. It's the exact reverse. right? Exact reverse. You look at the ADL Center for Extremism, which looked at 444 people killed by extremists between 2013 and 2022, 75% of them by the right. You look at the University of Maryland study that was done for their terrorism center, which found that from 1948 to 2018, right-wing extremists more likely to carry out violence than left-wing extremists. You look at the head of the FBI, who Donald Trump appointed, Chris Wray, who said the #1 domestic terror threat in this country comes from religious and racially motivated extremists, specifically white supremacists. You can keep going. The National Institute for Justice found that the majority of incidents since 1990, violent terroristic acts were right-wing extremists. The single biggest day of political violence, Chris, in our lifetimes in this country was January 6th, 2021, when right-wing extremists attacked the Capitol, injured police officers. They were ideologically motivated. You and I agreed it was an insurrection at the time. So it's bizarre for Vance to go on TV or go online and say the exact opposite of what both the official statistics say and the think tanks say. All of our evidence tells us. I mean, there was a Democratic lawmaker, Chris, I don't know how many times we have to say this, who was murdered in her home with her husband in June by a Trump supporter. And Donald Trump today said, who? When he was asked about it, he said, who?
Mm-hmm. So, Mehdi, one quick thing. I do not think January 6th was an insurrection. I thought that it was all kinds of crimes.
You said it at the time, Chris.
I just don't.
You called it an insurrection at the time. You did.
No,
I checked your Twitter before I came on
never
air.
thought.
Okay,
Go ahead, show it to me.
Check it afterwards.
I never thought that they were trying to take over the government. That's what an insurrection is. But it doesn't matter. It was bad. But we're dealing with new bad stuff. But
it was political violence. We can agree, right, Chris? It was political violence.
100%. It was political violence, but this was a murder for what somebody was saying.
Well, they were trying to murder Mike Pence, Chris. They were trying to murder Mike Pence.
Well, but they didn't. Those are just words. And if you killed somebody for saying it, you would have had a problem.
Hold on, because he survived? Because Mike Pence survived an assassination attempt, it's fine?
Well, it's no assassination attempt. They never had hands on him. They didn't do anything to him. But my point is speech versus actions, okay? But Ken, speech versus actions.
Killing of a Democratic lawmaker this summer, murder.
Yeah, Hortman was killed. Two people were killed. Yes.
That was murder.
Go ahead, Ken.
And Charlie Kirk's killing was murder. Speech is not violence, which is something we hear a lot in the rhetoric about free speech. Violence is violence. And one of the reasons it's important to reject the speech as violence, which is one of the excuses I'm hearing an awful lot about excusing Charlie Kirk's murder, is because then you devalue the significance on a moral basis of actual violence. And it's important, an opportunity for unity that I think still exists is for everyone to reject violence for political ends. Chris, you'll remember I said this over and over and over back in 2020 when I was the deputy secretary and cities across the country were burning. And then elected officials were very accepting, frankly, and excusing. Some of them were helping in the form of bailing people out, violent protesters. You even noted that early on in that process that these things don't always have to be peaceful. And I disagree. They do have to be peaceful. That's something we should all, left and right, be able to agree on. It's still there to be a unifying point, the rejection of violence, which is something Charlie Kirk lived and died for. People who actually watched him interact with people who disagreed with him, you and I are very passionate. Mehdi's obviously very passionate. Charlie was incredibly level in how he communicated with people. He was firm, but he never got angry. He didn't call people names. He respected them. He told them he respected them. And frankly, it's a model for all of us, left and right, to emulate, not the violence.
Well, I don't know about emulating everything about it, but that's not the point. Two quick things, and then back to you, Mehdi. The first thing is that I never said that protests aren't supposed to be peaceful. I know what the First Amendment is. What I said was at the time when the protests first started, there was so much pushback against the speech. What are they saying? They're saying things at cops. They're saying the ugliest things, the worst things. And I said, what do you think they're going to do? Sing slave hymns and then go home? You know, nobody ever said it's going to be peaceful out there. They're going to say a lot of things that are going to bother you. That's the price of our freedom and our democracy in this country. That was my point. Now, Mehdi, the idea of, is it time, place, and manner that, hey, I condemn this. This is unacceptable, what happened to Charlie Kirk. But He said a lot of things that were fill in the blank of extremist and abhorrent things. Why put those together right now?
So, Kris, I'm glad you asked me that question. It's a perfect timing because with respect to Ken made a very good point about rejecting violence. I agree with Ken. The problem, of course, is that Ken's former boss, Donald Trump, pardoned a bunch of politically violent people earlier this year. He's even dangled pardons in front of the kidnappers.
So did Joe Biden.
I'm not here to defend Joe Biden, but Donald Trump pardoned a bunch of political extremists who attacked the Capitol. And he's also, Kris, dangled pardons in front of the people who wanted to kidnap and maybe kill Gretchen Whitmer, like horrible political extremists. He's talked about pardoning them as well. So that's a real problem. And we need the president, as you said in your introduction, to really lead on this and use this killing of his friend to say, you know what, all of us tone it down. This is a president who's called his enemies scum, vermin, animals. You know, Kris, better than me what he's called his political enemies, including you. So that's what we need from the president. We're not getting it from the president. We're getting more kind of talk of pardons. The other issue which you asked about Charlie Kirk. Look, I differ from you on this, Kris, and this is what we argued on Twitter. I think public figures are not private figures. I think public figures, when they die, of course we should be respectful to their families. I've said time and again that it breaks my heart to think about what his children are going through, what his widow is going through. It's horrific what happened to him. I can't even watch that video. I refuse to watch that video of what happened to him. But he's a public figure. I'm a public figure. Kris, you're a public figure. When we die, people are going to look at what we said and say, well, I agreed with him on this, I agreed with him on that. And the problem is Ken and the right are trying to almost deify him. What Ken just said is not true, that Charlie never called for violence, that Charlie was level. Charlie called for me to be deported from America because he didn't like a monologue I did on COVID. He called for Joe Biden to be executed by death penalty. We can go down the list. I know you don't want to hear. Let's not make this a Charlie Kirk rhetoric thing. But I don't know what else to say. When I hear Ken saying things that I think are untrue, then I have to respond. You know me, Kris, it's in my nature. I have to respond and say, well, that's not true. Here are the facts. Just last week, the day before he died, the day before he was brutally murdered, he said that Islam is the sword the left is using to slit the throat of America. I don't think that's rhetoric that people should be emulating. I find that deeply offensive rhetoric. Obviously, it doesn't justify killing him. Nothing justifies killing him. But please don't tell me that he was a level-headed person who never insulted or abused anyone. That's just not true. He asked for people to post bail on the guy who attacked Paul Pelosi in his home, a violent extremist, Trump supporter, election denier, who attacked Paul Pelosi in his home, is now in prison for attempted murder. Charlie called for bail to be posted for him by an American hero. So that's the kind of rhetoric I don't think we need. Or emulate.
Mehdi, what is the difference? What is the difference between telling the truth and rationalizing the murder? That's why I talk about time, place, and manner. That when you say, look, this is unacceptable, but he said a lot of terrible things, it sounds like you're not as upset that he was murdered because he said those things.
With respect, Kris, that's not what I said. I said his murder is inexcusable. I've said that consistently, as have we all. But I was responding to Ken saying that Charlie was X, Y, Z. If Ken and the right, and Ken, I'm not picking on you, but the right in general, were not treating him like a new MLK. I'm seeing people saying he was a literal saint. He should have a statue put up in Congress. Kris, am I supposed to just let that go and not say, we probably shouldn't have a statue in Congress for a man who says Islam is a religion being used to slit the throat of the West, that Muslims like me are conquerors? This is the kind of stuff he said. Am I supposed to not respond to that political rhetoric?
Well, I think it's about how you respond to it and when you respond to it. The guy was just murdered. I mean, there's a reason why when people die, if you go to the wake, you don't stare down at the box, and say the guy was kind of a bum too. And that's why your interview with Omar bothered a lot of people.
If I may,
hold on, just 1 second. Look, 1 second, Ken, because Kris just brought up.
Let him get it.
I've sat aside for a lot of seconds.
My last point on this. Kris, you misrepresented Ilhan Omar. You echoed a tweet from a right-wing person who said that she was celebrating his death, that she said he had it coming. Completely false. And we are journalists, Kris. We're in the truth business, not the non-offensive business. You should delete that tweet because it's not accurate.
It's not happening.
She never said he had it coming. She condemned it. She said she was upset for his wife.
No, I didn't say she said she had it coming.
The guy you retweeted did. He falsely put words in her mouth.
But that doesn't mean I own what he says. You ever see retweets don't include endorsements? Everybody says on their stupid prophylaxis Twitter. It's not a false claim because here's why. That was his take on her saying, I condemn it, I worry about his family, but this is what he said.
That's false.
I don't think so. And look, people can decide for themselves. Ken, last word to you.
Yeah, so look, we started in a place, and the president can sometimes make himself, in the manner he presents himself, more difficult to defend. But I'll go back to my experience in 2020. First of all, I agree with both of you. There is violence across the spectrum. I think we should all be able to reject violence. That did not happen when I was in a position of responsibility in 2020. Instead, the Speaker of the House called police trying to keep protesters, violent criminals from doing damage, stormtroopers. And lots of elected officials on the left were critical of those of us trying to enforce the law until January 6th. And then all of a sudden, the police were their best friends. And I'm glad the police suddenly became their best friends. But the fact of the matter is, and polling shows this, there has been a rising acceptance of violence in opposition to positions and speech with which people disagree. And the data has shown for many years that there is a substantial difference, and the left is far more willing to take active physical steps to shut down disagreement than those on the right. The right is now coming up in that data. Excuse me, I sat quietly. And the left is far ahead on that, and the president is correct on that point. I think there's a difference. There's a difference between any organizations funding violence prosecuted.
There's a difference between a stated preference and the actual actions that play out. People say a lot of things in polls, but Ken, I take your point. Mehdi, I take your points. But here's the most important thing, and I can't believe I have to say this. Know this. I care about Ken Cuccinelli. I care about Mehdi Hasan, okay? I respect their take. It doesn't matter if I agree. And I need to say that because of where we are. These people matter to me, and them being heard matters to me without reprisal. Verbal reprisal, fine. Now, I want to bring in Paulina Luna after a quick break because she knew Charlie Kirk. And I wanted to get her take about what happens next. We played you Erica Kirk's full speech here, and it has blown up around the world. What does Anna want you to know? What does she believe as a member of Congress is going to happen next? Is there a movement?
If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country. So to all of the young people who felt inspired by my husband's faith and hard work, all of you already know what Charlie would want you to do. The movement's not going anywhere, and it will only grow stronger when you join it.
Erica Kirk, we showed you it in full on Friday. The movement went all over the world, her message. There have been demonstrations and events in countries all over the place. Paulina Luna, Republican member of Congress, Florida, knew Charlie Kirk, knew his wife Erica and the kids, and is very familiar with Turning Point USA. I wanted to bring her in. I sent you a note, my condolences for your loss of a friend, especially the way it happened. What does this loss, this murder, mean to you?
Well, first of all, it's obviously been hard, and Charlie's someone that will never be able to be replaced. But I do think that this signifies, especially for not just myself, who knew the family, knew Charlie, and is now a member of Congress, but for someone that started out as an activist alongside Charlie, that it indeed has spread his message, and he's going to continue to be impactful even after death. You know, Erica is in a unique position to where she, and I do absolutely believe this, is going to ensure that Turning Point not just continues to expand, but also continues to be responsible for recruiting those that are the future leaders of this country. I got my start, again, as an activist alongside Charlie, but I also know that what they were working towards and what the organization as a whole started doing was recruiting candidates to run for office, backing those candidates, and ultimately getting them elected to the House of Representatives. So I'm actually one of one, but I do look forward to assisting them in that candidate recruitment this next coming election cycle. But what what I can tell you, Kris, is that Charlie also, too, knew what was happening in regards to the amount of foreign influence in this country. And actually, just today, House Oversight sent out a letter that would freeze the assets, or ask the Treasury Secretary to freeze assets of a billionaire by the name of Neville Singham, who was operating on behalf of the Chinese government to sow discord in this country. I think I'd come onto your show and talked about that a few months back. But as a result of what's happening, you're seeing Congress wanting to take definitive action. So this is multifaceted. I can tell you that following the death of Charlie and watching him actually be murdered in a horrific way, that I wish I could unsee that I then had to spend the following hours actually contacting Meta and Roblox and X and Reddit and various platforms, asking them to take down the video, because people were then sharing the video and then calling for there to be violence upon Erica, the kids, Charlie's family. They're calling for assassination attempts of other politicians. And obviously that type of behavior is not tolerated on social media, especially with their terms and conditions. So they're enforcing it.
Terms and conditions, social media, the algorithms. Am I wrong to point the finger at them? Yes, you've got to think it, you've got to write it, you've got to want to hear it, of course. But do you think it's time for Congress to have a conversation? It can't be the government. The government can't regulate speech. But do you think it's time for the platforms to have more responsibility for what they magnify with their algorithms?
I think right now, my main concern, obviously, is that within 3 days, I saw, and this is, by the way, being showed to children, right? So there was a video of a woman in Philadelphia being executed with a firearm. She's a black woman. There was a video of the Ukrainian refugee being stabbed to death. That went viral. That was horrifying. And then, obviously, the murder of my friend. And I think that when you have a society that desensitizes death and removes humanity like that, it's obviously a problem. But more importantly, these platforms, if they want to maintain licensing, do have terms and conditions. And many of those terms and conditions include not displaying video or violence in an effort to, A, protect children that are on the platform, but also, two, if they have users that are on there, you're opting in to adhere to those standards when you're using the platform. So I think that there might be something coming down the pipe from the FTC on this, but what I can tell you is it was horrifying having to see this stuff over and over again and having to then flag it for these platforms. But I was very happy that some of these CEOs, specifically Roblox, specifically on X even, and then also to these other platforms, that they're willing to take down that information almost immediately. Blue Sky, that tends to be the left-leaning Twitter, was actually the quickest to respond, and they said that they're horrified to see that people were making calls for violence, and that was not something that they condoned. They released a statement, and they actually got to work immediately removing this content.
Do you believe that these platforms need you to tell them that they're doing things that are unduly provocative, or do you think that they just wait to get stopped instead of doing it themselves?
I was surprised that I had to make phone calls. I know some of them were trying to work quickly, but obviously they're also inundated. So I know the least I could do is at least ensure that this was being done and continue to flag some of these larger accounts. Some of the more horrifying stuff, though, I saw was actually people saying that Erica and his kids needed to be next. And I don't care who you are, you should never advocate for the murder of people, not to mention innocent children and women. And so I think that what you're seeing right now is a lot of people that are hiding behind keyboards and make statements, but unfortunately there are consequences to that. And so you'll see that there's going to be investigations coming forward. I don't know how much Discord has an involvement, but I do find it alarming that from what I'm being told, that there are recruitment tools and mechanisms. There's also these left-wing organizations, though, but they are receiving foreign funding from governments like China, and so that has to be looked into. But today was a first step in the right direction, and it's not going to stop there. But unfortunately, this is something that we are all going to have to reflect deeply on, because Charlie never deserved that. His family never deserved that. To see how people reacted to it was obviously abhorrent to witness in real time. And, I even had to sit here and hear people comment prior on him that didn't know him, that were taking stuff out of context, and that's hard to hear. But, I'm here to ensure that at least his legacy lives on, that we protect that, and that we continue to fight for what Charlie believed in.
What has been the hardest part for you in this, Anna Paulina, emotionally, to deal with this so far?
Well, Charlie's the reason why I'm in office. I was recruited by him to work with Turning Point. He convinced me not to go to medical school. I traveled with him for a year around the country, going to college campuses, debating these kids. I talked to him about inherent contempt on Merrick Garland. I would go on a show. I just saw him recently in Tampa, actually, for SAS. So it's someone that was, I guess you could consider a general within the conservative movement. He connected many people. For goodness sakes, I even campaigned with him in Arizona for J.D. Vance. So he is obviously someone that is never going to be able to be replaced, but I think it should go to show that his impact really genuinely does have a significant impact. I would put on the same scale, and I said this last Sunday's vigil here in Washington at the Kennedy Center, as Dr. Martin Luther King, JFK, and RFK. And unfortunately, he was assassinated because he had differing beliefs. And that's not American what happened. This person was a coward, and we're not going to let them silence his voice or his legacy.
There's no question he was killed for what he believed. Anna Paulina Luna, I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you for being here. You are always welcome.
Thank you, Kris.
All right. We'll be right back. Mr. Rogers said, when there's trouble, look for the helpful people. Who's going to be helpful now? Leland Vittert takes the baton.
Well, that is a high bar to be helpful, Kris. Great interview with Anna Paulina Luna. We watched her last night give the speech at the prayer service. NewsNation was the only network that carried the whole thing live. What struck me, everyone from Caroline Leavitt to HSS Secretary Robert Kennedy, your friend, Anna Paulina Luna, and others, they all said the same thing. They credited their political career to Charlie Kirk.
Look, he had a tremendous influence in such a short time, such a young guy, 31 years of age. You know, the one thing, look, a lot of this has me confused, to be honest. To me, America's supposed to protect what you say, period. That's just how it is when it comes to violence versus speech. But, you know, Anna Paulina, I get why she personally didn't want to see the video of Charlie getting shot, abused. I totally get it. And she was in the right. And yet, I don't know that people don't need to watch that video before they, but, you know, he was murdered, but, you know, he really said a lot of things. Before you qualify it, I think you should watch and imagine it's your spouse and your kids. And then if you think it's still important right now to talk about what he said that you didn't like.
Well, you are a pro, and you're such a pro that you set up my monologue perfectly, even not knowing what it was.
Okay, you can believe that.
All right, there we go. Thank you, my friend.